What is the history of Oklahoma higher education as it relates to African Americans?
Oklahoma has a very interesting history when it comes to African Americans. For one, there were people who thought that Oklahoma was going to get to be an all African American state. So they were contacting people, all over the country. This is a place you can come and own property and be free. And so that was a really big deal. So you had all these African Americans from not just all over the South, but all of those people east of the Mississippi River who were coming to the state of Oklahoma because they could own property. My family is one of those families that came here before statehood. But for the higher education part of it, you had so many places that were started to be African American towns. And so there were, small schools that were set up. And then the one that is still, alive and thriving is Langston University. And that's the only African American college that has, remained in the state of Oklahoma. So the thing about higher education in the state of Oklahoma that makes it so problematic at that time was that because there were so many people determined to keep segregation in the state, they didn't want to have this state come in with, an African American population that was, that powerful, with education and, politics, property ownership, that they were very determined to keep African Americans out of higher ed.
That year of 1949, five of us went and enrolled in what was then Oklahoma A&M. There were 2 women and 3 men, and we commuted from Langston, where we all lived. And at the end of the first semester, one of the men and the 2 women decided that they did not wish to continue. So for the second semester, only Phail, Wynn, and myself continued. And we finished the course and got our degrees in May.
My dad always felt that he was a test case. And his belief was that he was admitted so that the officials could determine or ascertain whether or not African Americans deserved to be admitted to do graduate work or undergraduate work. So he saw himself and Melvin Tolson as pioneers, but as very important test cases, because it was firmly his belief that had they not succeeded, had they failed, that would have delayed the entry of African Americans even longer from being admitted to Oklahoma State University.
Patrice, and I would place this in a little bit of context, Patrice was elected to be student body president for the 1973-74 year, and her vice president was a guy named Gary McCurdy. And they were elected and had a chance to serve during a time of the 70s, which is a time not only at OSU but around the country of considerable campus turmoil. Things like the Vietnam War were going on and protests. Things like on this campus, women's hours in residence halls and protests there. On this campus, some protests regarding freedom of speech and expression and policies related to that. So Patrice and Gary came out of a time when a time of a certain amount of campus unrest here and around the country due to things fomenting around the country.
got my start at Oklahoma State. Everything I know came from teachers in this school, and I am proud to be an OSU graduate.
Most of us that were here as black students at the time, we knew each other. And we were support for each other. And that was probably why a lot of good friend relationships developed. Because we were each other's strength. And Bill was such an outstanding person, outstanding student, that it was very easy to want to be like him and spend as much time with him as you could. I didn't realize it at the time, but we all become the average of the 6 or 8 people we spend the most time with. And I'm so excited about the fact that I chose to spend as much time as I could with Bill as opposed to a few other students that I knew.
What does it mean to you personally to be the first African American woman president at OSU?
Well, it was significant because it felt significant because it broke a barrier. Something that hadn't been before had come into being. So I hope that left an openness at the school for anybody who loved the school enough to want to be engaged with student issues at that level felt as though it could be done. So that, I think, was the importance of it for me. And we all have different concerns and different issues, and at their time, hopefully, we can get them all addressed. So it's, I think that was the most significant thing, that it broke a barrier for a black person to be student government president.
I know they discussed the fact that they knew that someday it would be different. And they also understood that, that was a sacrifice they had to make to ensure that someday things would be different. And so they just said, there'll be a time when African American students crossing this stage will be part of that broad, celebratory atmosphere, and will be applauded as vigorously as those others receiving degrees.